Hello. So I'm going to talk just briefly about private practice growth. One of the things that I've really enjoyed about today is to hear osteopaths and to hear chiropractors and physios all go through similar kind of pain points, and hearing Elliot talk just then about marketing and some initial discomfort at it. I've been through exactly the same emotional journey, and what I'm going to talk about is essentially how just being nice is marketing, and that's my little story here. So I'll talk about who I am, what I've done, what I'm doing now, and what I've learned along the way, and just some stories just to try and highlight that as well. So who am I? I qualified in 2009 from the University of Brighton, so this is like a little homecoming gig for me. I was in the NHS for nearly 5 years, and I was in Sherborne, Portsmouth, and Oxford, and got various experience in sports. So I worked for Southampton Football Club, I worked for rugby clubs, did beach volleyball on Sandbanks Beach. That was one of my best jobs I think I ever got. And then I went into the private sector, and this is where my initial discomfort at marketing really started. And I was working for Six Physio, so they are one of the big London companies. And I grew through them to head up one of their clinics in Chelsea, and I grew that by around 33% to a clinic grossing over £1 million. I then moved out of London to go do it for Synergy Physio, so they're a group out in Woking and Egham, because I wanted to just try and do it outside of London. I was very aware, I was in Chelsea, it's quite a different world there, and so I wanted to see if I could do it outside of London. And a month ago I joined Bodyset because I want to see if I can do it outside of London. Now I want to try and do it on a national scale. I'm a Southampton fan as well, so that was good. So where am I now? I work for Bodyset. I joined them in July. We've got 34 clinics, so they're a mix of flagships and concessions, so within gyms. And I've got the clinical director role, so I'm responsible for clinical delivery across the whole company. We're keen to create an environment where patients and clinicians can flourish. And the big mission of Bodyset is high street positioning. So we're right on the high street. So why do I tell you this? This isn't a sales pitch. But essentially, one, it is a sales pitch. We're recruiting, so I just want to let you know. So if you want to jump on board, get on board. My email address is at the end. But number two, the challenges may be different. I've worked in Chelsea, I've worked in Surrey, and now I'm trying to work nationwide. But the challenges and my guiding principles have remained the same, and I just want to just expose you to a few of those. So I've got 5 kind of key mantras. I think clinicians, I'll talk you through one by one. I think clinicians should be more like maitre d's. So we want to be the front of house. And I came from the NHS, where you're pretty standoffish, and I very quickly realised that essentially we need to be front of house. We need to be front and centre. We need to be hugging patients when they come back in, not literally maybe. And the important bit with the maitre d' doesn't cook the food, but he or she really recommends the pathway for people to get what they want. You don't need to do all the work. We've heard loads and loads from different people around psychology, around the MDT approach. You don't need to do it all, but you need to blooming well know who does. And therefore, you need a network of GPs. You need, if it's psychology that this patient needs. A good example of this, when I was in Surrey, there was a dance college next door, and I was treating a whole host of 16-year-old girls who'd injured their ankle. Me going in to talk about pain psychology with a 16-year-old was not the best person for the job. So I linked up with a pain psychologist, and I just found my outcomes really, really improve. So it's just finding these opportunities and these pain points that really help get your best patient outcomes along the way. So have a contact book and make sure to look after every aspect of the patient. So don't miss bits. But the important bit as well is make sure your notes tell a story beyond just the clinical aspect of this patient. And my story behind this is I went to a hairdresser down in Portsmouth, and I thought this hairdresser had the best memory in the world. She knew where my girlfriend at the time worked, she knew what football team I supported. I was in Portsmouth and I supported Southampton. If you know anything about those two teams, they bloody hate each other, so that was pretty memorable anyway. But I just thought she had the best memory in the world, until one day she left a little contact card on the table in front of me, and I realised she had girlfriend lives in Cardiff, Southampton fan, brackets, scum, and she had everything written down underneath. And I was initially kind of like, just looking at it going, she's not memorized any of this. But I very quickly just went, that's gold customer service, and we've got to do more of it. So now you'll find, if ever you read any of my notes, the top of it, it has exactly what a patient's dog is called, what their child is called, and it's really important to just form these little hooks to just, basically my whole presentation could be giving a toss about your patients, and that's what this is all really geared up towards. External facing tasks, as I've already said, suss out what's relevant for your patient field. It may be that there's sport clubs around it, there could be consultants that you want to go and get involved with, there could be social clubs, theatres, personal trainers. Listen to people's stories, hear what's around, and essentially I would just position your private practice in the centre of everything that you're doing there. Make sure it aligns with your interest and passion as a physio. If you work next to Wentworth Golf Club, but you don't particularly like golf, which was my issue, maybe don't go for it, or blooming well learn all about golf, one of the two. But get out there and network. And this was deeply uncomfortable for me as an NHS physio, because London, it's very much expected. You go out, you go have beers, you have coffees with a consultant. And it felt very awkward. I'd always known a consultant as Mr. Smith or Mr. whatever, and then all of a sudden you're having a beer at the top of the walkie-talkie going, what the blooming heck am I doing here? And it's just really important to just go, get their mobile number, get to know them, because that personal connection is deeply important. LinkedIn is beautiful, because otherwise you're just knocking against the door of medical secretaries, but get in front of them as much as you can. Clinical observations, so jump into clinics with consultants. I'm sure they don't mind. I'll talk on their behalf here, but I'm sure they don't mind you jumping in their clinics to watch. Or go with your patient. If you know a patient is going to see a consultant, go to the appointment with them. The marketing and the value of that to a patient, but also as a consultant facing that, is really key and really important. The important bit, though, don't spread yourself too thinly. So when I first started out, I got excited at basically charging beers and coffees to 6 Physio's account. And I tried to see far too many consultants. And then you realise I couldn't sustain those relationships. So it's all about, in those positions, just have few quality connections that you can link people up with. You want to become a patient's go-to therapist. And I always set this as a challenge to the clinicians I've worked with. And the question I always ask is, if that patient's got a question about their clinical care, who are they going to go to? Are they going to go to their mum? Are they going to go to ChatGPT? Are they going to go to Google? You want to make sure it's you. So just really just making sure that you are available for communication. That's marketing 101 at the end of the day. And I think, again, we are now competing so much more with online coaches who have 24/7 capacity. We need to make sure that we're keeping up, otherwise we are going to be left behind. For this to happen, that communication needs to be easy, as I say. And I would say, I won't talk through what this is in a huge amount, but look up value proposition and a value proposition template or canvas, or lean canvas. What this does, very similar to what Elliot was talking about, is essentially you're sussing out, rather than trying to get patients to you, you're trying to get your business to the patients. So you're finding out what are their pain points, and then finding ways that you can make that better. However, all of this is very effortful. It's you going out there, it's being externally facing. What you've got to do is really just make sure, the most important lesson I can teach you, look at the patients you've got, monitor their trends, and monitor your retention. Because as clinicians, I think the vast majority of us are pretty lucky in as much as we don't get many complaints. But how many of them silently quit? How many vote with their feet and just walk away? And that's what you've just got to look at your retention about. So this is back to being a maitre d'. As Elliot was saying, you've got to show them the whole journey as you go. So maitre d', when they discuss the menu, they don't just talk to you about the first course, they talk to you about the whole meal and get you excited about, okay, you're in pain now, but 3 months' time we want to get you back to a marathon. So it's showing you that end destination. Show them the dessert really, really early doors. If they jump off, don't hesitate to just nudge them back on. And I think this is an area I know as physios we get very deeply uncomfortable with, is trying to email patients to chase them to come back in. This quote at the bottom, actually, I was listening to, there was a radio show about hip-hop the other day, and this quote was in that. So this is from a very, very famous doctor in his field. This is Dr. Dre, I think. So people think of marketing like begging, and people think of these emails as really begging, desperate measures, but it's all about illuminating them. It's all about investing in them to come along that journey with you. So monitor your retention of your patients. How many of those patients stay all the way to the end? And that's what you want to do. And if there's issues there, you can do as much of the external facing bits as you like. It's all about that retention piece. So chasing them back with emails. Are you showing them the whole journey and then making sure that they come along with you? We are recruiting at the end of it if you want. But yeah, any questions at the end? Absolutely perfect.